Hello, my creative friends. Welcome to the Wednesday workshop video series. I'm Heather Burnell of Heather Burnell Art, and I'm really glad that you're joining me today. I wanted to show off my fun t-shirt. It shows that I love art, which I do, and I hope you do too, and I want to share my love of that with you. In this video today, I'm going to show you how I use several different mediums. This one happens to be glass beads, which is one of my favorites. So bear with me 1 second while I adjust the camera and I will show you how I use them. Hello, welcome back. So the first thing we're going to talk about is tar gel. It sounds like it might be something awful and has tar in it, but it's really pretty cool. Let me show you the consistency of it. You see how it drizzles? You can do that with paint too. So I'm going to put some, I use, I don't know if I've said this in any of my previous videos, but I use wax paper for my palette. It is inexpensive, it's cheaper than palette paper, and then I can just throw away any excess paint or medium. But in a future video, I'm going to show you how you can make use of any excess paint and medium so you're not filling up landfills with paint and medium. So I'm going to put some of this on my wax paper, and I'm going to add a little bit of Golden's Fluid Quinacridone Red. I think I've mentioned in previous videos that a fluid paint is what it sounds like. It's more watery than a heavy paint. So they have different purposes. We'll talk about that in another video. So I'm going to mix these together. And with most mediums, you can mix the paint right into the medium. And now when I put it on to my canvas, it's kind of goopy, but I'll show you what it looks like when it dries. Could also drip some on. Make a little border, it kind of stays put. All right, grab my rag. Old t-shirts are great as rags. You don't have to waste as many paper towels. Put the lid back on my tar gel. I don't want anything to dry out. The next thing we're going to talk about is fiber paste. This stuff is what it sounds like. See how it looks fibrous? I'm going to take some of this and put it on my palette. And I'm going to mix it with a little bit of light purple paint. Excuse me. Everything is blooming here in Charlotte, North Carolina right now, and it's making me cough. You scoop that up. I'm going to put that on my canvas. And again, I'll show you what that looks like when it's dry. I always have, this is an old salsa jar. I always have a container of water nearby. Old mason jars are great too. They're good for holding brushes that are longer. Cover up my fiber paste. The next thing I'll show you is one of my favorites, glass beads. This particular brand, Winsor & Newton, works well, but I've also found other brands like Golden works well too. And it's a train going by. I don't know if you can hear that in the distance. I live pretty close to the train in town. And this is just what it sounds like. It's glass beads mixed in with a medium. So you can spread this across your canvas. I don't know if you can hear that, especially over the train, but it sounds kind of scratchy, like scraping glass beads over something. And when it dries, the medium that it's in dries clear, and you're left with these sparkly beads on your canvas. So sometimes I use them to highlight something like a sun. Cover that up. The next thing is absorbent ground. This is Golden brand. And what this does is prepares the surface. I've run out of palette knives, so I'm gonna wipe one off. It prepares the surface of the canvas to act like watercolor paper. So if you were going to do watercolor on a canvas instead of on paper or on wood, for example, you would need to put this down so that the watercolors or the watercolor pencils that you use will react properly with the surface. So you probably can't see this very well since it's white, but I'll show you how it responds when it's dry. And the last thing I'm going to show you for today, before I show you what they all look like when they're dry, is acrylic ground for pastels. And what this is similar to the absorbent ground for acrylic, that acts as a base for watercolor. And this acts as a nice base when you want to use just regular colored pencils, or when you want to use charcoal pencil. You can also add some color to this. I'm just going to mix it here on the canvas since I forgot to add the color earlier. I'm adding cobalt turquoise. So now when I come back, I could draw on this easily because it creates a nice surface with a nice tooth in it. The tooth means it'll grab the pencil, and I can create something that is going to be beautiful on this canvas. So I will be back in a minute and show you what it looks like when they're dry. Okay, I actually cheated and did these earlier. I have to find a place to put the wet stuff. Make sure that this is centered. I want to get this out of focus. Okay. So the red is the tar gel, and you can see it's very shiny. It's got some bubbles in it. You might want that look, and it almost has the consistency of, looks like ice, like maybe if I was painting and wanted a very glossy surface. If I didn't want these bubbles, I would have had to brush them out. Now this is the absorbent ground, and I already drew a heart with a watercolor pencil. And I need to do a separate video on watercolor pencils because they're super fun. I was thrilled when I found out they existed. But I just sprayed a little bit of water so you can see what happens. And I'm going to draw with this watercolor pencil. After I drew the heart with the watercolor pencil, you can see over here it is kind of running off a little bit into the canvas, and now it has dried somewhat, and if I wanted to I could come back and outline it, or while it was still wet I could blend it with some other color. So it's pretty neat. This pink right here is the glass beads, and it feels very rough, but as I said, the medium that the glass beads was in has dried clear. So it's pretty neat when you want to make something shine, or sparkle, you can just add glass beads on top. This is the pastel ground, and you use regular pencils on that. You can see right here I started to just color a little bit with this magenta pencil, and you can do the same thing with a charcoal pencil, and because of that pastel ground it has this nice surface that picks up the pencil very well. And lastly, there's the fiber paste, which is also very rough. You can use your palette knife to create stiff peaks or small peaks or lines. It will dry however you leave it to dry. What I use this for sometimes is it makes an interesting background when I want to use a particular quote or word and I want to highlight the word. I use fiber paste for a background and then paste on top of it. And I like that I can make it any color that I want. So that's it for this week's workshop. I hope you've learned something that you can use, and I will talk to you again next week. Bye for now.